Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Dawn, watching the stars drift past the main window. His ship had been traveling through deep space for 3 months now, looking for new planets and signs of life. The mission was simple: explore, map, and report back to Earth. Nothing too exciting had happened so far. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange on the scanners," said Amanda Brooks from her position at the communications station. She was young, only 25, but she had sharp eyes and never missed anything important. Jake walked over to her station and looked at the screen. Strange energy patterns were coming from a solar system about 2 light years away. The readings were weak, almost like a dying battery, but they were definitely artificial. "What do you think it is?" Jake asked. Amanda shook her head. "I don't know, sir. It's not like anything in our databases. The energy signature is completely unknown." Dr. Lisa Carter, the ship's scientist, looked up from her research station. She was a tall woman with gray hair who had spent most of her life studying alien life forms. "Captain, this could be very important. We should investigate." Ryan Peters, the ship's engineer, was working on some broken equipment nearby. He was a big man with strong hands who could fix almost anything. "The ship is running fine, Captain. We can make the detour if you want." Jake thought about it for a moment. Their mission was to explore after all. And if there was intelligent life out there, Earth needed to know about it. "Set course for that system, Amanda. Let's see what we can find." The journey took 2 days. As they got closer, the energy readings became stronger, but also more concerning. The signals were coming from a planet that looked almost dead. The surface was covered in brown and gray colors, with no signs of green plants or blue water. "That planet looks terrible," Ryan said as they entered orbit. "What could survive down there?" Dr. Carter was studying the readings carefully. "The atmosphere is breathable, but barely. The temperature is very cold, and there's not much water left. But those energy readings are definitely coming from underground." Jake made his decision. "We're going down to investigate. Amanda, you stay with the ship. Lisa, Ryan, you're with me. Prepare the landing shuttle." The 3 humans put on their environmental suits and climbed into the small shuttle. The trip down to the planet's surface was bumpy, and the landing was rough. When they stepped outside, they found themselves in a wasteland of rocks and dust. "The energy source is about 2 kilometers that way," Lisa said, pointing toward a large hill. "But Captain, I'm getting some very strange readings. There's something alive down there." They walked across the rocky ground toward the hill. The air was thin and cold, even through their suits. As they got closer, they could see that the hill wasn't natural. It was some kind of structure, covered in dirt and rocks after many years. "This is definitely artificial," Ryan said, examining the surface. "Look at these patterns in the stone. Someone built this." They found an entrance, a dark opening that led down into the ground. Jake turned on his flashlight and led the way inside. The tunnel was smooth and carved from solid rock. Strange symbols were carved into the walls, glowing faintly with a soft blue light. "These symbols are beautiful," Lisa whispered. "They're not like anything I've ever seen." As they walked deeper into the tunnel, they began to hear something. It was a low humming sound, like music, but not quite. The sound seemed to come from everywhere at once. "What is that?" Ryan asked, stopping to listen. "I don't know," Lisa replied, "but it's definitely not natural." They followed the tunnel for about 10 minutes before it opened into a huge underground chamber. What they saw there made them all stop and stare in wonder. The chamber was filled with thousands of crystal formations, each one glowing with soft blue light. The crystals were arranged in perfect patterns, like a vast garden made of living light. And moving between the crystals were beings unlike anything the humans had ever seen. The creatures were tall and thin, about 8 feet high, and their bodies. seemed to be made of the same crystal material as the formations around them. They moved gracefully, almost floating, and the humming sound was coming from them. "My God," Lisa whispered. "They're beautiful." One of the crystal beings noticed the humans and approached them slowly. It had no face as humans understood it, but somehow it seemed to be looking at them with curiosity rather than fear. The being began to make different sounds, changing the pitch and rhythm of its humming. Lisa quickly pulled out her translation device and started recording. "It's trying to communicate," she said excitedly. "The sounds are very complex, but there's definitely a pattern. It might be a language." More crystal beings gathered around them, all humming in harmony. The sound was beautiful, but also sad, like a song of mourning. "Captain," Lisa said, studying her device, "I think I'm starting to understand some of this. They're trying to tell us something important." Jake nodded. "Keep working on it. This could be the discovery of a lifetime." As Lisa worked with her translation equipment, Jake and Ryan looked around the chamber. There were thousands of the crystal beings, but Jake realized that this huge space seemed too big for their numbers. It was like a city built for millions, but only thousands remained. "Lisa," Jake said, "ask them what happened here. This place looks like it used to be much bigger." Lisa tried to communicate with the lead crystal being, using simple sounds and gestures. After several attempts, she managed to get a response. "Captain," she said, her voice full of concern, "I think they're trying to tell us that they're the last of their kind. They're survivors, and they're in great danger." The crystal beings continued their sad song, and Jake began to understand that they had found something much more important than just a new species. They had found a dying race, and these might be the last survivors in the entire galaxy. "We need to learn more," Jake said. "Whatever happened to them, we need to understand it, and we need to help them if we can." As the crystal beings gathered around the three humans, their song grew louder and more urgent. Even without understanding their language, Jake could feel their desperation. They were trying to warn the humans about something terrible, something that was coming for them all. Dr. Lisa Carter worked for hours trying to understand the crystal beings' language. She sat cross-legged on the cave floor, surrounded by the glowing creatures who hummed softly around her. Her translation device beeped and clicked as it processed the complex sounds. "I think I'm getting somewhere," she told Captain Jake Morrison. "Their language is based on musical tones. Each pitch and rhythm means something different." The lead crystal being, who seemed to be very old, came closer to Lisa. It made a series of low, sad sounds that made her translation device work faster. "Captain," Lisa said, looking up with worry in her eyes, "I think his name is Zethara, and he's telling us about something called the Dominion. They're the ones who destroyed his people." Jake knelt down beside Lisa. "What exactly is this Dominion?" Lisa listened as Zethara continued his musical story. Other crystal beings joined in, their voices creating a harmony that painted pictures in sound. The translation device worked hard to make sense of it all. "They're describing a group of warrior races that travel from star to star," Lisa explained. "They find peaceful civilizations and either force them to join their empire or destroy them completely. The Valani refused to give them their technology, so the Dominion hunted them down." Ryan Peters, who had been examining the crystal formations, came over to join them. "Captain, I think these crystals aren't just decorations. They're some kind of advanced technology. The energy readings are off the charts." Zethara seemed to understand Ryan's interest. The old being moved to one of the larger crystals and touched it gently. The crystal began to glow brighter, and suddenly images appeared in the air above it. The humans watched in amazement as the crystal showed them pictures of space battles. Huge ships with dark, angular designs attacked beautiful, peaceful worlds. Cities burned, and millions of beings died as the Dominion forces swept across the galaxy. "This is incredible," Jake whispered. "They're showing us their history." The images changed to show the Velani's home world as it once was. It had been a paradise with crystal cities that reached toward the sky and gardens that sparkled with living light. Millions of Velani had lived there in peace, using their crystal technology to create art, music, and knowledge. Then the Dominion came. The images showed the attack in terrible detail. The Dominion's dark ships surrounded the planet and demanded surrender. When the Velani refused, the attackers began bombing the surface. The crystal cities crumbled, and the beautiful gardens turned to ash. How did any of them survive? Ryan asked, his voice full of sadness. Sephara made more musical sounds, and Lisa translated. "He says a few thousand Velani escaped and hidden ships. They scattered across the galaxy, trying to find safe places to hide. This group has been hiding here for over 200 years. Jake felt anger growing inside him. How many other races has the Dominion destroyed? The crystal images showed more worlds burning, more civilizations falling. The Dominion seemed unstoppable, growing stronger with each conquest. "Hundreds," Lisa said quietly. "Maybe thousands. The Dominion has been doing this for centuries." Back on the New Dawn, Amanda Brooks was monitoring space for any signs of trouble. She had been feeling nervous since the captain went down to the planet. Her instruments had been picking up strange signals from deep space, but they were too far away to identify. Suddenly, her communication system came alive with an urgent message from Earth. Commander Steve Walsh appeared on the screen, his face serious. "Amanda, I need to speak with Captain Morrison immediately. We've detected unknown ships moving toward your sector." Amanda's heart raced. "Sir, the captain is on the planet's surface investigating an alien civilization. What kind of ships?" "We don't know, but they're big and they're moving fast. Get your people back to the ship now." Amanda tried to contact Jake, but the planet's underground location made communication difficult. She could only send a weak signal that might not reach them. Down in the crystal cavern, Jake's communication device finally picked up Amanda's message. The signal was broken and hard to understand, but the word ships came through clearly. "We need to get back to the New Dawn," Jake told his team. "Something's happening." Zithara seemed to understand the urgency. The old being made rapid musical sounds that caused all the other Velani to stop what they were doing and listen. "He's saying the Dominion has found them," Lisa translated, her voice full of fear. "He says they always find the survivors eventually." Jake grabbed Lisa's arm. "How long do we have?" Sephara's song became more urgent. Other Velani began moving quickly around the cavern, touching different crystals and making them glow brighter. "He says the Dominion scouts are already in this star system," Lisa said. "They followed our ship's energy trail." Jake felt his blood run cold. "We led them right to the Velani." Ryan was already packing up their equipment. "Captain, we need to leave now. If there are hostile ships out there, the New Dawn is sitting duck." But Zethara moved to block their path. The old being made a series of complex sounds that made Lisa's translation device work overtime. "He's saying something about Earth," Lisa said, confusion in her voice. "He says the Dominion will follow us home. They'll destroy our world too." Jake understood immediately. By discovering the Velani, humanity had become a target. The Dominion would see them as another threat to be eliminated. "We can't just leave them here," Jake said. "And we can't lead the Dominion to Earth either." Zethara approached Jake directly and made a long musical speech. The other Velani joined in, their voices creating a sad but determined harmony. "Captain," Lisa said, tears in her eyes, "he's thanking us for trying to help. He says humans are the first species in 200 years to show them kindness. But he's also warning us that the Dominion shows no mercy to anyone who helps their enemies. Jake looked around at the thousands of crystal beings who had survived so much pain and loss. Then he thought about Earth, about the billions of humans who had no idea what was coming for them. Tell Zethara that humans don't abandon their friends, Jake said firmly. We'll find a way to help them and protect our world too. As they prepared to leave the cavern, the Vellani sang a new song. This one wasn't sad like the others. It was full of hope and gratitude. Even without understanding the words, Jake could feel their meaning. For the first time in 2 centuries, the Vellani were not alone. But as they rushed back to their ship, Jake knew that the real test was just beginning. Somewhere in the darkness of space, the Dominion was coming, and humanity was about to face its greatest challenge. Jake Morrison ran through the tunnel toward the surface, with Dr. Lisa Carter and Ryan Peters close behind him. The Vellani's warning song echoed through the caves, getting louder and more urgent with each step they took. How much time do we have? Jake asked as they reached the shuttle. Lisa was still carrying her translation device, which was picking up the Vellani's musical communications. Zethara says the Dominion scouts are already scanning the planet. Maybe an hour before they find the underground city. They climbed into the shuttle and blasted off toward the new dawn. As they flew up through the atmosphere, Jake could see dark shapes moving between the stars. The Dominion ships were already here. Captain, Amanda Brooks said over the radio, I count at least 12 ships. They're huge, maybe 10 times bigger than anything we have. Jake felt his stomach drop. Are they scanning us? Not yet, but they're definitely searching for something. Commander Walsh is on emergency communication from Earth. He says more ships are coming. When they reached the new dawn, Jake immediately went to the bridge. On the main screen, he could see the Dominion fleet spread across the star system. The ships were black and covered in sharp angles, like they were built for war and nothing else. Get me Commander Walsh, Jake ordered. Steve Walsh appeared on the screen, his face grim. Jake, we've been monitoring the situation. Those ships belong to something called the Dominion Empire. They sent us a message an hour ago. What kind of message? A demand. They want us to tell them where the Vellani survivors are hiding. They're giving us 72 hours to cooperate, or they'll destroy every human world in the galaxy. Jake felt anger burning in his chest. They're threatening to kill billions of people for helping a few hundred survivors. That's what they do, Walsh said. We've been researching them since we got their message. The Dominion has destroyed over 300 civilizations in the past 1,000 years. They don't make empty threats. Dr. Carter, who had been listening, stepped forward. Commander, the Vellani aren't just refugees. They have technology that could help us defend ourselves. Their crystal energy systems are incredibly advanced. How advanced? Walsh asked. I don't know yet, but the energy readings are unlike anything we've ever seen. If we could understand how it works, it might give us a chance. Jake made his decision. Commander, we're not giving up the Vellani. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we need every ship we can get out here. Walsh shook his head. Jake, you're talking about starting a war with an empire that has been conquering the galaxy for centuries. We have maybe 200 ships total. They have thousands. Then we'll have to be smarter than they are, Jake said. How long before our reinforcements arrive? Admiral Betty Johnson is already on her way with the main fleet. 48 hours. That gives us 1 day to prepare after they get here, Jake said. It'll have to be enough. After ending the communication, Jake turned to his crew. Amanda, send a message to the planet. Tell Zethara we're going to help them, but we need to evacuate as many Vellani as possible. Captain, Ryan said, our ship can't carry thousands of passengers. We'd need 12 ships just to move them all. Then we'll have to make multiple trips, Jake replied, or find another way. Down on the planet, the Velani were preparing for what they thought would be their final battle. They had survived for 200 years by hiding, but now they were discovered. Many of them began singing their death songs, the beautiful melodies. That honored their ancestors. But Sithara was not ready to die. The old Velani gathered the younger members of his people and began teaching them something they had almost forgotten. Before the Dominion attacked their home world, the Velani had been warriors as well as artists. They had fought to protect their crystal cities until the very end. The humans are willing to fight for us, Sethara sang to his people. They risk their entire species to protect ours. We must remember who we were before we became refugees. Young Velani named Mordain, who had been born in the caves and never seen the stars, listened to the elders' words. But we are not fighters. He sang back, we are crystal singers and light weavers. We are whatever we need to be, Sethara replied. Our crystals are not just for beauty. They are tools of great power. The humans will help us remember how to use them. Back on the New Dawn, Jake was studying the Dominion fleet movements with his crew. The enemy ships were getting closer to the planet, and soon they would detect the Velani's underground city. Captain, Amanda said, I'm getting a transmission from one of the Dominion ships. They want to talk to you. Jake straightened his uniform, put them through. A massive alien face appeared on the screen. It had gray skin, red eyes, and teeth like daggers. The creature wore black armor covered in battle scars. I am General Vexter of the Dominion Empire, the alien said in perfect English. You are the humans who discovered our prey. They're not prey, Jake replied. They're refugees who have done nothing wrong. Vexter laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Wrong? They refused to serve the Dominion. They kept their technology to themselves instead of sharing it with their betters. That is the greatest crime in the galaxy. Since when is wanting to be free a crime? Since the Dominion decided it was, Vexter said. You humans are new to the galaxy. You don't understand how things work. The strong rule, the weak serve. Those who refuse to serve are eliminated. Jake felt his crew watching him. Everything, he said, now would determine whether humanity would fight or surrender. Maybe we are new, Jake said, but we understand right from wrong. We won't help you murder innocent people. Vexter's red eyes glowed brighter. Then you have chosen to die with them. We will take the Velani by force, and we will destroy your species as an example to others. You can try, Jake said, and cut the transmission. The bridge was quiet for a moment. Then Ryan spoke up. Captain, did we just declare war on a galactic empire? Yes, Jake said. And we're going to win. Amanda looked at her instruments. Sir, I'm detecting movement from the Dominion fleet. They're moving toward the planet. Jake activated the ship's general communication system. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to face the greatest challenge in human history. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and fighting an enemy that has conquered most of the galaxy. But we're not fighting for conquest or glory. We're fighting because it's the right thing to do. He paused, looking out at the stars where the Dominion ships were gathering like dark storm clouds. The Velani have survived for 200 years, waiting for someone to help them. Today, that someone is us. We may be just one ship against a fleet, but we're not alone. We have allies on the planet below, and reinforcements coming from Earth. Most importantly, we have something the Dominion doesn't understand. What's that, Captain? Amanda asked. We have hope, Jake said. And sometimes, that's enough to change everything. The first attack came at dawn. General Vexter's ships dropped out of orbit and began bombing the planet's surface, trying to force the Velani out of their underground city. The ground shook as energy blasts hit the rocks above the crystal caverns. Jake Morrison watched from the New Dawn's bridge, as the Dominion ships circled the planet like hungry wolves. "Ryan, how long can the Velani's caves hold up under this bombardment?" Ryan Peters checked his instruments. "The rock is thick, but those are military-grade weapons. Maybe 6 hours before they break through." "That's not enough time," Jake said. "Admiral Johnson won't arrive for another day." Dr. Lisa Carter was working frantically at her station, trying to understand the Velani technology. "Captain, I think I've figured out something important. The Velani crystals don't just store energy. They can share it between different locations instantly." "What does that mean?" "If we could connect our ship's power systems to their crystals, we might be able to boost our weapons and shields far beyond normal limits." Jake felt a spark of hope. "How long would that take?" "I don't know. We'd need to work directly with the Velani, and we'd have to do it while under attack." Down in the crystal caverns, the Velani were not just hiding anymore. Zethara had gathered the survivors around the largest crystal formation in the center of their city. The ancient crystal was as tall as a building and glowed with power that had been stored for centuries. "The humans fight for us," Zethara sang to his people. "Now we must fight for them." Young Morgaine approached the great crystal, his crystalline hands trembling. "Elder, I have never used the old ways. What if I fail? Then we die as we have." "Lived," Zethara replied, with dignity and hope. The bombing continued above them, and dust fell from the ceiling. But the Velani began to sing together, their voices creating harmonies that made the crystals glow brighter. As they sang, the crystals began to resonate with each other, creating a network of power that spread through the entire underground city. On the new dawn, Jake made a desperate decision. "Amanda, take us down to the planet's surface." "We need to get close enough to connect with the Velani's crystal network." "Captain, that's suicide," Amanda said. "The Dominion ships will destroy us the moment we enter the atmosphere." "Not if we're fast enough," Jake replied. "And not if the Velani can help us." The new dawn dove toward the planet, dodging energy blasts from the Dominion ships. Jake had never flown so dangerously in his life, but he knew it was their only chance. As they approached the surface, something amazing happened. The Velani's crystals began to glow so brightly that the light could be seen from space. The energy field around the underground city expanded, creating a protective barrier that deflected the Dominion's bombs. "They're doing it," Lisa said with wonder. "They're using their crystal network as a shield." "Get us connected to that network," Jake ordered. "Ryan, prepare to link our power systems." The ship touched down near the entrance to the Velani caves. Ryan and Lisa quickly ran outside with cables and equipment, working to create a connection between human technology and Velani crystals. Inside the caves, Zethara felt the humans. Ship connect to their network. The old Velani had never imagined that alien technology could work with their crystals, but somehow the connection was perfect. "Mordaine," Zethara sang, "focus your energy through the human ship. Give them the power they need to fight." The young Velani placed his hands on the great crystal and began to sing. His voice was pure and strong, and as he sang, energy flowed from the crystal network into the new dawn systems. On the ship's bridge, Jake watched in amazement as their power readings climbed far beyond anything they had ever seen. Their weapons were now 10 times stronger, and their shields could probably stop anything the Dominion threw at them. "This is incredible," Amanda said. "We're reading power levels that should be impossible." "Then let's use them," Jake said. "Target the closest Dominion ship." The new dawn rose from the planet's surface, now glowing with crystal energy. When they fired their weapons, the energy beam was so bright it lit up the entire star system. The Dominion ship it hit was destroyed instantly. General Vexter saw the destruction of his ship and roared with anger. "What is this? How do the humans have such power?" "General," one of his officers said, The energy is coming from the planet. The Valani have somehow connected their technology to the human ship. Then we destroy the planet, Vexter ordered. All ships, focus your fire. On the surface. Turn that world into dust. But as the Dominion ships began their attack, something unexpected happened. Other Vellani crystals on different parts of the planet began to glow. The survivors had been teaching their knowledge to crystal formations across the world, creating a network that covered the entire planet. Suddenly, the new dawn was not alone. Energy beams rose from dozens of locations on the planet's surface, all powered by the Vellani's crystal network. The Dominion ships found themselves under attack from everywhere at once. How is this possible? Vexter demanded. The Vellani were pacifists. They don't fight. He was wrong. The Vellani had been warriors once, before they chose the path of peace. But watching the humans risk everything to protect them had awakened something in their hearts that had been sleeping for centuries, in the crystal caverns. Mordain was no longer the frightened young refugee he had been that morning. As he channeled power through the network, he felt connected to every Vellani on the planet and to the humans who fought beside them. We are not alone anymore, he sang, and his voice carried through the crystal network to every corner of the world. The battle raged for hours. The Dominion ships were stronger and more numerous, but they had never faced an enemy like this. The combination of human courage and Vellani technology created something entirely new. Captain Lauren Phillips arrived with 3 more human ships, followed by Commander Tony Garcia with a squadron of fighters. They had been sent ahead of the main fleet to help with the evacuation, but instead they found themselves in the middle of the most important battle in human history. Jake, Lauren said over the radio, what's happening down there? Our sensors are going crazy. We're making history, Jake replied. Connect your ships to the crystal network. The Vellani will show you how. One by one, the human ships linked with the Vellani crystals. Each connection made the network stronger, and the combined fleet began to push back the Dominion forces. But General Vexter was not finished. He had one more weapon, something the Dominion saved for their most dangerous enemies. He ordered his flagship to charge its planet-killer weapon, a device that could destroy an entire world. If I cannot have the Vellani, he said, then no one can. Jake saw the massive weapon charging on the Dominion flagship. All ships, we have to stop that weapon. If it fires, the planet and everyone on it will be destroyed. The combined human Vellani fleet turned toward the flagship, but they were running out of time. A planet-killer weapon was almost ready to fire. That's when Mordain made the bravest decision of his life. The young Vellani gathered all the power he could from the crystal, networked and focused it into one massive pulse of energy. For the humans who saved us, he sang, and for the future we will build together. The energy pulse shot from the planet toward the Dominion flagship. It was so powerful that it overloaded the planet-killer weapon, causing it to explode and destroy the flagship with it. General Vexter's last words were a scream of rage and disbelief. He had never been defeated before, and he could not understand how a few humans and some crystal singers had destroyed his mighty fleet. But as the explosion faded, Jake realized that something had changed forever. The Vellani were no longer the forgotten victims they had been. They were warriors again, fighting alongside their human allies for a future they could build together. The explosion of General Vexter's flagship lit up the entire star system like a new sun. When the light faded, the remaining Dominion ships were scattered and confused. For the first time in 1,000 years, a Dominion fleet had been defeated. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the New Dawn's bridge as the enemy ships began to retreat. Amanda, are they really leaving? Amanda Brooks checked her sensors carefully. Yes, Captain. The surviving ships are jumping to hyperspace. They're running away Dr. Lisa Carter was monitoring the crystal network connection. Jake, the Velani are asking if we're all right. They want to know if the danger has passed. Tell them yes, Jake said, but his voice was heavy with sadness. And tell them that Mordane's sacrifice saved us all. Down in the crystal caverns, the Velani were mourning their young hero while also celebrating their first victory in 2 centuries. Zethara stood beside the great crystal, which now glowed dimly after Mordane had used so much of its power. He died like a true warrior, Zethara sang to his people. The humans taught us to fight again, and Mordane showed us how to win. But the celebration was interrupted by new arrivals. Admiral Betty Johnson's fleet had finally reached the star system, and they were amazed by what they found. Jake, Admiral Johnson said over the communication system, "What happened here?" "We're detecting the wreckage of dozens of Dominion ships." "We?" "One, Admiral," Jake replied. "Humans and Velani fighting together. We actually beat them. That's impossible. Nobody defeats the Dominion." "Tell that to General Vexther," Jake said with a small smile. "Oh, wait, you can't. His ship is floating in pieces around the planet." Within hours, news of the victory spread across the galaxy. Species that had been conquered by the Dominion began to whisper that maybe the Empire was not as strong as everyone believed. On a dozen worlds, rebellion movements started planning their own fights for freedom. The Zephyrians, a bird-like race that had been enslaved for 50 years, were the first to act. They attacked their Dominion overseers and declared their independence. When the Dominion sent ships to crush the rebellion, they found the rebels using new crystal energy weapons that the Volani had shared with them. The Nautolan Collective, an underwater civilization, rose up next. Then the Stone People of Granite Prime. Within weeks, the galaxy was on fire with Revolution. Jake was promoted to Admiral and given command of a new ship called the Unity. It was the first vessel designed from the Yaw, beginning to use both human and Velani technology. The ship's crew included both species working together as equals. "This is strange," said Lieutenant Danny Walsh, the ship's new communications officer. He was young and still getting used to working alongside crystal beings. 3 months ago, we didn't even know aliens existed. Now we're part of a galactic alliance. Zethara, who now served as the ship's chief energy specialist, made musical sounds that the translation device turned into words. Change happens quickly when people choose to do what is right instead of what is easy. Dr. Carter had been appointed as the head of the new human Velani research center on Earth. She split her time between the Unity and the research station, working to understand how the 2 species' technologies could be combined. "We're learning things that we never imagined possible," she told Jake during one of their regular meetings. "The Velani's crystal technology doesn't just generate power. It can heal injuries, purify water, even help crops grow faster. This could change everything for both our species." Ryan Peters had become the chief engineer of the entire human Velani fleet. He worked with Velani crystal singers to design new ships that were faster, stronger, and more efficient than anything either species had built alone. "The best part," Ryan told his team, "is that every ship we build makes the network stronger. The more ships we connect, the more powerful the whole fleet becomes." But not everyone in the galaxy was happy about the new alliance. The Dominion was gathering its forces for a massive counterattack. Other species that had sided with the Empire were angry about losing their positions of power. "Admiral," Amanda said during a staff meeting on the Unity, "we're getting reports of Dominion forces massing near the Vega system. It looks like they're planning something big." Jake studied the star charts on the main table. "How big?" "Maybe 1,000 ships," Amanda replied. "The largest fleet the Dominion has ever assembled." Zethara's crystals glowed brighter as he processed this information. "They mean to destroy us completely this time. No mercy, no prisoners. Then we'll have to be ready for them, Jake said. How many ships do we have now? 60 human vessels and about 30 Velani crystal ships, Ryan answered. Plus maybe 40 rebel ships from other species. We're still outnumbered 10 to 1. The same odds we faced at the Velani homeworld, Jake said. And we won that battle. But this time they'll be expecting our crystal technology, Lisa pointed out. They'll come prepared. Jake walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere, out there, the Dominion was planning their revenge. But he also knew that hundreds of other species were watching, waiting to see if the Alliance could survive. Set course for the Vega system, Jake ordered. Send a message to all our allies. Tell them it's time for the final battle. As the Unity and its escort fleet jumped to hyperspace, Jake thought about how much had changed since that day when they first discovered the Velani. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy, and the Velani were no longer a forgotten race hiding in caves. They had become something new together, something stronger than either species could be a lone dot in the crystal chambers deep inside the Unity. Young Velani singers worked alongside human engineers to prepare for the coming battle. They sang songs of hope and courage, their voices blending with the hum of the ship's engines. The galaxy was about to change forever. The age of the Dominion was ending, and the age of cooperation was beginning. It would not be easy, and many would die before it was finished. But Jake knew they were fighting for something worth any sacrifice. They were fighting for a future where no species would ever have to hide in caves again, forgotten and alone. They were fighting for a galaxy where different races could work together instead of destroying each other. As the Unity raced toward its destiny, Jake made a promise to himself and to the memory of Mordain. They would win this war, not through conquest, but through the power of friendship and the courage to do what was right. The final battle was coming, and humanity and their allies were ready.